Okay, so let's kick off without further ado. My name is Sorka Finucane and I am the owner and founder of Trained In. Trained In is a global marketplace that will allow training and consultancy providers to advertise and showcase their business and services. The great thing about it is that it's free to sign up and it is live as of last week. So you can go to trainedin.ie now and sign up and showcase your business and services for free. And we're running at zero commission until the end of June. This webinar, the purpose of this webinar is for Trained In to showcase our registered providers like Ashley, so that Ashley can get a greater sense of engaging with the public, so like-minded people and potential customers. It's a great way and great opportunity for her to give a snippet about who she is, what she does, and for you to ask as many questions as you possibly can in this short period of time. These webinars are also run in conjunction with Taste for Success SkillNet, and we have Bridie on the call here today. So let's kick off. Ashley. Oh, sorry, before I go in, I'll just say a bit of housekeeping. I can't see you and we can't hear you, so please use the chat facility. I'll manage the chat and I'll manage all the offers and polls. So if you've got anything to ask Ashley, please pop it into the chat. So good morning, Ashley. How are you? I know you're probably up to 90 now after all of that, but tell us, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. There's so many steep learning curves for us all at the moment. One around technology, and I've been fortunate. I've been online for quite a while, but it's moments like this that certainly bring the heart rate up and keep us sharp. Let's put it that way. So, thank you very much for having me, and I'm delighted to be here this morning. Just very briefly, I'll introduce myself to the audience so they know who it is. Clearly not terribly technically minded. So I'm Ashley Tobin and I'm a health and mind coach. I've been in the Irish healthcare industry for over 30 years now. So I started way back in the 80s in general nursing. And during that particular recession, I then left nursing to move into the pharmaceutical industry. And I worked in a number of different roles there. Up to senior management in Eli Lilly. I worked in different therapeutic areas, so endocrinology, cardiology, female health, and mental health. And after 12 years there, and a little bit of frustration, I suppose, at how people were often looked at as organs rather than whole people, I moved out into the area of what I call human behavior and learning. So I've been studying since then in the areas of positive psychology, neurolinguistic programming, NLP, cognitive behavioral therapy, mindfulness, complementary medicine. Now, all of that, I love learning clearly, with a view really to helping clients to take charge of their own health and well-being, because there's a huge amount that we can do to help ourselves and to make it easier to stay and be well. So the other thing about me, I would say, is that you'll see over the course of this few slides is that I like to keep things simple, very ordinary and very practical. And the reason for that is that mostly that's what works. Mostly our lives are ordinary. We're just ordinary men and women. And when we keep it as simple as we can, there's a good chance of it landing and actually happening for us. So in terms of what happens very often for us in our brain, which is amazing, is that we tend to complicate things. Sometimes it's because we want to look more sophisticated or make it look, look better in the eyes of someone else. But sometimes it's because of our actual mind monkeys that we complicate things. And what I mean by our mind monkeys really is the chatter, the internal dialogue that happens for all of us, that I have sort of narrowed it down that it tends to do three things. They cause debate in our head. So you make a decision to do something and then the mind monkeys cause us to debate. That's the first thing. And so we have these conversations with ourselves that appear to be going nowhere. The second thing they do is they distract us from what it is we actually want from ourselves, from the day, whatever. And the third thing is they delay our follow through. So there are three, it's easy to remember. So we've all had situations, you're going to go for a walk, you're standing by in the kitchen, maybe going to go to put on your shoes to go out for a walk, and then you spot a cloud in the sky. You go, I wonder, will it rain? And that's it. You're off. There's a debate, well, I don't want to get wet, or if I get caught in the rain. 10 minutes later, you're then persuading yourself, so there's not much point going now because you have to be back to put the dinner on. And so literally what has happened is you've just mind monkeyed yourself.
That's amazing.
So that's what I mean by complicating things. So could I have the next slide there, please?
Can, of course. Perfect. Yeah. Here we go.
The one after that, please. Yeah. So I like to keep things very simple, but I also like to be very straight with people. And so I have some good news and some bad news. So the bad news is that it's up to you. And by that, I mean, again, those mind monkeys play off on our heads a little bit, because we play funny head games with ourselves. We think that, you know, it shouldn't be hard, or that there's some magic solution somewhere. If I just put my credit card in somewhere, there'll be some magic thing that will make it all possible for me. The other thing we can sometimes do is fall into victim mode. You know, if only everyone realized how hard I worked, blah, 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 blah. And so the news I have for you is it's up to you. You're it in terms of managing your own mind monkeys and making sure that you follow through on what's important to you. But the good news is that it's up to you, because there isn't anyone that's better qualified than you to actually manage your own mind monkeys and get what it is you want. You're the one that's living with you all the time. So in actual fact, you may need some additional resources, or you may need to learn something, but you have all the resources you need. Could we have the next slide there, please? So I'm going to say something that this isn't always related to our mood. So we've all had days where we've been in good mood. It's not about feeling low or feeling fed up or anything like that. We've had days where we've been in good mood, but we're still not doing it. We're not going for the walk. We're not taking the exercise. We're eating more than we should, or the wrong stuff. So our mind monkeys can play in even when we're in a good mood. So it's separate to a mood piece. It's actually about managing where we manage to self-sabotage. Now, the other thing I've said is that chances are you don't need more information. I could easily put up 3 slides here telling all of us how we stay well at this time. What would they say? They'd say things like, you know, make sure you have enough sleep, reduce your screen time, move your body, get some exercise, eat a good diet. Information isn't the problem. We all know what we're supposed to be doing. The issue isn't more information. The issue really is about winning our head game to be able to know, well, what works for me. So the other piece of this is that how important it is that we actually become to know what works for us. When I'm working with clients, I'll ask them, well, what does work for you? For some people, it will be running. If you see me running, something is chasing me. I don't do running. However, I know that what works for me is yoga, and I'm doing it at home at the moment, and walking. So I know that certain things such as walking, yoga, getting out in the fresh air and in nature in particular really, really helps me. But many of us don't take the time to actually get out a piece of paper and write down, well, what actually works for me? Because you might think yoga at home is the most boring thing ever. And it's something else is going to be what helps you get your head game right. Now, the other question I ask clients is, What's your self-sabotage strategy? And people go, oh, what do you mean? I don't have a self-sabotage strategy. We all have them. We all know what things tend to slip up. Where do we get caught? Is it when you find yourself making an excuse for the third day in a row that you're not going to bother going to the gym? Is it if you don't get enough sleep? I really don't do well with very little sleep. So if I'm tired, chances are I'm not going to have the same, I'm just not going to be in the same best place in my head. For others, it's about alcohol. Do you know that Mondays are usually tough, rough sort of days for you because you've drunk a lot at the weekend? Again, something simple like taking a piece of paper and doing what I call an audit. And what works? What doesn't work? For you, not for the best thing to do. I'm talking about for you. Where do you always get caught up? And clients are often surprised when I ask that question, and they know. We all know, let's face it. So the thing is, despite that, biology does play a part. Could we have the next slide there, please, Turka? And by that I mean hormones impact all of us, not just women, men and women. Now more than any other time in a long time, I would say, more and more people are running with raised levels of adrenaline. So whether you're someone who is concerned that your business won't stay afloat and you're working really, really hard just to stay going during this time, or perhaps you're someone who is really finding it hard to work at home while homeschooling, while sharing space and never getting out. Or maybe it's someone who's struggling with illness themselves, or perhaps simply just nervous about this whole COVID thing. More and more of us have raised levels of adrenaline in our system at the moment. And that's going to make it harder for you to win your head game, because over a longer period, adrenaline, while it can help in short term to increase our focus, when it's there on an ongoing basis, really doesn't help. But in addition to that, women have some other stuff going on. There's no reason, if PMS was a problem for you before COVID-19, why would you think it wouldn't be even more of an issue at this time? And yet I do know that many people haven't gotten out to get that starflower oil or the B complex that normally helps. So again, pay attention. What did you do before that helped you with your PMS? And are you doing it now? And do you need to give yourself a break on certain days in the month when it's just tougher actually to be in charge of your behaviors? For those women who are in perimenopause or perhaps suffering from symptoms of the menopause, you know as well as I do, it's not just about hot flushes. It's a time when there can be brain fog and we can struggle to actually have good concentration. Maybe confidence is a little lower than usual. That's not going to go away just because we're here in COVID-19 in lockdown. Have you been making sure that you're looking after yourself? Is there something you were doing before that you've let slip that simply just has gone out outside of your radar? Is there a way that you could now take a look at what would help? And whether that's getting your prescription for HRT or getting back in touch with your complementary therapist, whatever it is that worked in the past, it's just as important that it works, that you work now to make sure you're supported at this time. Could we perhaps, thank you very much, we're thinking along the same lines. So Our moods change at the best of times. We have days when things are really, really good and easy for us. And we have other days that, yeah, just a little bit below par. We have a tendency to push past things. We make it happen anyhow, particularly certain personality types. And yet it may make more sense to adapt and respond to those changes. So if energy isn't quite as good as it was yesterday, is there a way that you can respond to that and perhaps expect a little less or push a little less? Do you need to go to bed earlier tonight? Self-awareness is probably the biggest key. It's the most important thing in my experience to winning your head game. And I'm not talking about navel gazing, any of that stuff. I'm just talking about noticing your body. What signals is it giving you? And how are you responding to those signals? Now, I'm going to go through the rest of this particular slide and we'll see what perhaps people have thoughts from any of the attendees. As humans, we self-soothe, we comfort ourselves, but we don't always get relief from the comfort we give ourselves. So the intention is right, but often it backfires. And that's where our mind monkeys can come in as well. So I mentioned here wine o'clock. So there's lots of people, and there's lots of jokes about it, how one day is blurring into another. But if previously you were someone who had a few glasses of wine on a Friday and a Saturday night and that was it, have now begun drinking every day, and maybe not just one glass, but maybe 2 or 3, there is no doubt that while I understand that seems like self-soothing, for very many people, what it tends to do then is actually trigger the mind monkeys and backfire on us. Because this might sound familiar. Oh, I said I wouldn't drink now till the weekend, and I feel a bit seedy this morning. I really shouldn't have had a whole bottle of wine. Generally speaking, the urge that we get to have a glass of wine to chill out and relax, the benefit is only for that first glass. But for many others, the backfire comes with anything beyond that. The other piece that we're doing a lot of is comfort eating. I'm seeing all sorts of posts on social media. I posted something about what have you gained during this time, and quite a number of people texted me and said like 7 or 10 kilos. And the reality is, as humans, we do comfort eat. And again, it's pretty much the same as the glass of wine. There's nothing wrong with having a biscuit or the piece of cake or whatever it is that's your fancy for comfort eating. But I do know that for many people, what happens is that one biscuit becomes 4 or a packet. And again, what that tends to do is trigger those mind monkeys and trigger what I call that all or nothing thinking. I can't believe it. I can't believe that I ate 4 packets of crisps last night or a packet of biscuits. So that's me screwed now for this week. There's no point. What am I going to do? And sure, it's Thursday. Sure, tomorrow's Friday. And sure, I'll be eating rubbish at the weekend. So I'll wait and I'll start on Monday. We all do it. We've all done it. So just pay attention that what you look to self-soothe actually gives you some relief. And a more useful question, rather than what do I want now, is what would be really, really useful for me now? What do I need? Because very often when we're looking for something to self-soothe, when we ask that question, what would be really, really good now? Often we're looking for rest because we're tired, connection. So we need to speak to someone and perhaps just say, you know what, I'm getting fed up with this and I'm bored or I'm struggling or whatever. And the other one is movement. Very often, one of those three things will help us much, much more than a bottle of wine or a packet of biscuits. Sorcha, I'm not sure if there's any feedback that you need me to address before I go on to the next piece, or if there's anything.
We have, maybe you just look at the poll, Ashley. So the question we asked was, how is your self-care routine, or has it been during COVID-19? So 0% of people have done nothing, which is great. 42% of people tried several times but kept falling off track. And 57% of people are doing well most of the time, which is fantastic. I have to say that I fall into the 42% category myself. And what you described there about the self-sabotage and your mind monkeys coming into play, maybe not necessarily when I'm looking outside and I see a cloud in the sky, but you definitely do talk yourself out of doing things, I find, or something always takes precedence over looking after yourself, be it work, or if I just answer this last email, or if I just finish what I'm doing now, and then the time has moved on, and then it's 7 o'clock, and if I go for a walk now, it's going to be 8 o'clock, and I still have to cook the dinner, and da. And you're right, it's totally true, yeah. And yeah, I was one of those Friday, Saturday, have a glass of wine, and now it's like a couple of times a week. Now I'm still limiting to one a week. But yeah, your mind is there going, oh, you don't need it, what are you doing? But it's just, I suppose the sun is out and you're just kind of sitting outside, getting a bit of sun, having a glass. And the other thing that I'm doing is I'm baking. So I'm baking cakes and brownies and things like that because, well, I have to use the eggs because if I don't use them, they'll go off. So we're going to bake a cake. But then we have all these lovely treats and things. So yeah, when someone says put on 10 kilos, one of those as well. But it would be very interesting to hear from all of the people on the call. What have you any questions for Ashley? What are your thoughts? Are you experiencing anything that Ashley has said? So don't have anything just yet. I think people have been, like myself, really interested in what you're saying, and you'll probably get a lot more chat coming in throughout.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, you know, the mind monkeys are clever, and it comes back to those 3Ds that I talked about. They cause debate. So we have these oh well, I'll just get that email done and sure later, or I'll do that later, or when the kids go to bed, or whatever. So that debate tends to happen. The second thing is they distract. So we get just simply distracted by social media, by a thought that we have in our head. But ultimately what they do is delay follow through. And that's where we get caught, in that we feel great when we're on track for what it is we want from ourselves. And that doesn't have to be, you know, saving the world. It can be simply just about getting for a walk every day. And it's clever and not a big deal. And we all do it. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong. It's about learning how you work best to interrupt that. So the slide now is about really how do you go about then winning your head game? What is the solution? Now, I've mentioned earlier that self-awareness is key. And by that, I mean literally paying attention to your own body, what it does, how the signals it's giving us. Every single day, our bodies are incredible. And it's simple, and that doesn't always mean it's easy. So I'd say pay attention to what works for you and do more of that. But often we're so busy and we're so future-paced that we're not really paying attention, or we've never, in some of my workshops, I ask people to write down, you know, what they know works well for them. And sometimes it's the first time that people have actually seen it on a piece of paper in front of them. Actually, it really works when I get 7 hours sleep. It really works when I go for exercise every day. It's not rocket science, but it isn't. It is that simple sometimes that we need to pay attention to what works for you. And the other piece is notice what trips you up. So whether it's that you just keep procrastinating, whether it's that you assume there'll be time at a later stage, whether it's that you keep promising yourself later, when this sales cycle, when COVID-19 is over, when the kids go to school, when they, whatever, what is it that trips you up? And chances are, I'm going to reckon that for almost all of us, it's usually the same simple strategy that has tripped us up throughout everything. So whether you're talking about personal or professional goals, it's actually the same thought process, the same mind monkeys that have tripped us up in the past. Can I have the next slide, please? So I said I like it to be very, very simple. So the first thing is noticing what you want. And then I'm looking for 15 minutes out of your day. It's not a lot and is genuinely transformative. So if every morning you take 5 minutes, not 5 minutes while you're doing something else, 5 minutes of dedicated time where you remind yourself what you want. And that can be something as simple as, for me, for example, it was to stay fit, healthy, and well during lockdown. Very simple. So I remind myself of that every single morning. It's a tiny little 5-minute time. And then I ask the question, what can I do today that will help me get that? And so that might be a walk. It might be that I drink more fluids. It might be that I get more sleep. It can change from day to day. But 5 minutes where you're not doing anything else, you are simply putting your attention on yourself. Sounds mad that we would not pay attention to our head game when changes and makes our life so much better if it's on track.
Yeah.
And then the other 10 minutes is the evening time. So literally every evening, just take 10 minutes. So what did I do today that helped me get what I want? And it's about really the accountability piece. And some days you go, you know what, I didn't do it, I got distracted. And it's about noting that and going, okay, so what happened? Why did I get distracted? Is it that, so for me, I like to do my yoga early in the morning. If I'm up promising that I'll do it later, chances are I'm in a slippy slope to it won't happen. So 5 minutes every morning and 10 minutes every evening is very often enough if we're doing it with focus and dedication to actually get our head game right and manage our mind monkeys. And the other piece is, if that's not enough, get help staying on track. So a useful question for me that I ask regularly is, who do I know that actually would be able to help me with this? And so it can be a friend that you need an accountability buddy to actually do this with, or it can be a family member to say, when you notice me doing that, will you actually point it out to me? Or it can be somebody like myself or anyone else. It doesn't matter who's helped you before. Where have you gotten help staying on track before? Because if you need help in another area in work, you'll go get it. So there's no reason why it's not useful to actually get some help staying on track in your head game. And just the final slide, just to let people know, I have a program starting in May. It's an online program, Get Your Mojo Back on Track, and it's really about winning your head game. It's 7 weeks online program through a Facebook group, or there's a personalized, if you're not someone who likes being a part of a group or one-to-one program. And I have what I call my kindness and kick-ass video calls. So they're a weekly support and accountability group call. Because what I'm saying is that it is up to each and every one of us. Some days we need encouragement. Some days we need to have ourselves called to account, that we're feeling sorry for ourselves. And so what I have found through this group over the last months or so is that when we have a tribe, or when we have both kindness and kick-ass coming our way, it is easier to stay on track. Our mind monkeys are always going to be with us. This is not about eliminating our mind monkeys. As humans, our brains are incredible. We are incredible in terms of what's possible. The thoughts, the mind monkeys, they're part of who we are as humans. We don't have to get rid of them. We just have to notice what they do, how they operate for us, and how we can actually work alongside them so that we manage them as opposed to they manage us. Because ultimately, for me anyhow, life is important and precious, and it would be a shame that we don't make what matters to us matter every day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's so many people who don't take care of themselves. But I think there's so much that you've said there, Ashley, in the last 30 minutes that will resonate with everybody. And we've got a couple of people here on chat. I'm just going to read out a couple. I know John said baking in his house is dangerous too. We also said it's a great webinar and keep up the good work. Suan said, I think also a lack of belief that we deserve time for self-care is one of my obstacles. And so I don't do anything for me. So I suppose that's my self-sabotage. Yeah, I understand that. That's only half of her message, but do you want to say something on that?
So when I work with clients, one of the, I suppose, it's important to take a look and see what's working and what gets in the way. And sometimes we have old stories. Let's face it, none of us get to this age, whatever this age is for you, without having some baggage. That's just called life. It's not. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong. And the issue isn't about the baggage. The issue is about how we can learn to operate regardless of the baggage. So for years, I would have given myself a hard time thinking that, I needed to be, I'm going to say not perfect, but to have it all right. The reality is that it doesn't always work that way. And it's much more useful to be able to be present and adapt to what's happening so that you get to have what I call a good life in your own head. We have old beliefs, we have old stories, what I call them. They don't have to run us. They don't have to, it would be a shame if they ran our lives. And very often, it's not terribly complicated. It's actually sometimes some simple interrupts is all that's needed. The reason I have a 7-week program as opposed to one call fixes all sort of a program is that sometimes the habits we run are simply that. They're habits. And it takes a little bit of time to establish better habits so that it doesn't matter if you believe you don't really deserve it. If you're turning up and behaving as though you deserve it, it starts to change things. And I describe it to clients sometimes as a bit like moving a large ship. It's in tiny little increments every single day that we make massive adjusts. But when we're in the middle of it, it's easy to get a little disillusioned. And that's where the 7-week program comes in, because you get support, you get encouragement on the days when you want to throw the towel in.
I have a link to that 7-week program in the offers there. If anyone is interested, you can click on the link. But just the other part of Sue-Ann's message, she said, and I totally resonate with what you said here, Sue-Ann. She said, I need to do everything for everyone else. And if I stop to do yoga or go for a walk, I'm wasting time. Yet I know I need to change this mindset. And now I need to look after my health, which is acting up. Thanks for challenging me as to what's my excuse. Suzanne, I totally resonate with what you say. And if somebody asks you to do something, no matter how busy you are, you drop what you're doing, you help somebody else, and then you leave yourself a little bit under pressure. And if you go for a walk to manage your monkeys, you're wasting time. You should be at home doing X, Y, or Z. You've too much work to be out here having a walk or whatnot.
So I like to call this my God delusion. So that somehow like that. I'm responsible for everything.
Yeah.
And seriously, I'm not that important.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah.
And very often it's a habit we've gotten into. My clients tend to be men and women that make stuff happen. They're the sort of people that if you need something done, they'll do it because they're already doing a million things. And that can work really well for them up until a point. There comes that we only have so much bandwidth. And after a while, very often then people begin to neglect themselves. And yet understand when you challenge them that their car needs fuel, or that if there was a red warning light in the dash, that they'd do something about it. Very often, people wait until something serious happens to them in their health. So I like to poke a little bit of fun at it and call it, our God delusion, that somehow we're responsible for everything. Yeah. In actual fact, your bottom line is you're responsible for yourself. Yeah. And I come back to my first slide. It is up to you. And while you're paying attention, looking after everyone else, you're neglecting yourself. And it's not a good strategy for success.
Yeah, totally makes sense. Just coming back to what Brania said, be kind to yourself. Don't compare what others are doing, especially at this crazy time. Do what works for you and what makes you feel good. Yeah, totally agree with that. Seamus said, commitment to screen time, switch off time is another common challenge. Totally, yeah. Orla, thank you very much for interesting food for thought. Sue-Ann, thank you for hearing me, for understanding. Thank you, sir. You're welcome, Sue-Ann. You and me are in the same pod. Sue-Ann has just asked as well, how much is the course for taking back your mojo? Is that it? I think it's detailed on your Facebook page.
All of the details are on the Facebook group event, and obviously different pricing for if it's an individualized or tailored than in the group, but all of the details are on that link. And if anyone is considering, is going, oh, this sounds interesting, or I'm not sure that's for me, it's well worth checking out. I'm not sure whether you managed to include it, Sorcha, my link to my scheduler. So I am happy to
I did. That the scheduler one is in the other offer. I'm just going to remove the Mojo offer for a second, and I will put up the other one to book a call with you, and that has the link to your scheduler. So that's up there now. The other thing that you mentioned in the presentation was where everybody's mood can change. I'm basically saying that everybody is different, and to acknowledge when your mood is low or your mind isn't where it was, you're not as productive as you were the day before. And I suppose in this situation where we are now, where we're working from home and you can control, I suppose, yourself in a different environment, when you're in a work environment and you are reporting to line managers and whatnot, it must be very difficult, or it is difficult, because everybody's treated in the same even keel, I suppose, and you're not necessarily, it's not necessarily taken into account, depending on the company that you work for, that people's productivity goes up and down on a daily basis, or different things affect different people in different ways. So I think companies could also benefit from having sessions in managing mind monkeys and self-awareness and managing your groups, so that you're encompassing everything that you've talked about. Yeah.
Well, very true. And I think it is about understanding, and more companies, to be fair, are working to support their employees. Certainly, I know I've done a number of programs in corporations, including Solace, where we looked at either mental health issues or what I call just everyday empowerment, how to help yourself in work, and how to, it comes back down to how you can stay well at work. But to be fair, more and more companies are doing that. And certainly, I'm not sure if it's happening online. And certainly, I think it would be great for people, because there's probably additional pressures while you're trying to work at the kitchen table. But yeah, because although we're at work in our professional suit and in our work mode, we're still people. And yeah, that can never be forgotten by anyone, including our employers.
Ashley, I think we need to sign off. I think that we've run over a little bit. I know we're a bit late starting, but most of the people have stuck with us throughout the entire call. So thank you very much to you for your time and for sharing some amazing insights and some very useful information. I'll be doing my 5 minutes and my 10 minutes. I think every day. It's a great, and it's so small, it's so easy. There is no excuse not to do it. So if anybody has any questions, you can pop us an email or connect with Ashley. And thank you all so much for your time and for your patience and sticking with us at the start. We really appreciate it. Ashley, have a great day, and we will talk to you very soon. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so
Bye.
much. Thanks
Bye.
to everyone. Bye now.